Okay, so I just saw 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, and yeah, it was pretty awesome. So yeah, I thought I would do a review of it, and I want to also just talk about the franchise. Let's go back to 28 Days Later, and just talk about that and my feelings on the franchise as a whole. So yes, 28 Days Later. This film I remember watching when I can't remember how old I was, but I must have been like 12 or something. But yeah, this film really freaked the hell out of me. And actually, I think at one point I had to like stop watching it, and it was at the bit where they're in Jim's house, like Killian Murphy's house. He's with obviously Naomi Harris, and he's with this other guy. Then they get attacked by infected people. Naomi Harris's character and the other guy, they have their machetes and they fight all the infected. They kill all the infected, and you think, oh great, cool, they got him, cool. But then the other guy might be infected. He's got like a little cut, and you're like, oh no, shit, he's 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 got a little cut. And this is the moment that really just like freaked the hell out of me, and I had to stop watching it. It traumatized me actually. I would say Naomi Harris's character, right? She literally just doesn't hesitate, and she just goes for him with the machete and just chops his arm off, and then just puts him down like a dog. Just puts him down like a feral dog. She doesn't waste any time. She just kills him, and it's so shocking and so sudden. And yeah, it's sad because like before you got to know that character a little bit. You heard his sort of backstory. He had like a little monologue where he talked about when the outbreak happened and blah blah blah, and then he tells that little funny joke about the lion and the giraffe, and you kind of like think, oh yeah, I like that guy, he's funny, he's got some humor to him, ha ha ha. And then she just kills him just like that, and you're kind of left wondering, was he infected? Was he actually infected? Could we not have waited maybe a minute to find out? But obviously, because she's got experience, she knows that yeah, he was infected, and she wasn't going to take any chances. And that kind of freaked me out that bit. And obviously, like, I think I was with my brother, and I was just like, okay, okay, right, we need to change the channel. I don't want to watch this film anymore. And then we did change the channel, but then we were like, actually, no, wait, we should probably carry on watching it. It is pretty good. It's pretty entertaining. But I will just say, like, it does. I mean, the opening of it is fantastic, where he's walking around London, it's completely deserted. That is just fantastic filmmaking. Brilliant. Filmmaking, but the film does feel very dated, and it does look like shit, to be honest with you. Like the cameras, that they were using, it does feel like they were using a potato. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not about the cameras that you're using, it's about what you're filming. That's what it's all about. And obviously it does give it an interesting kind of documentary sort of feel to it. It gives it an interesting look. But yeah, great, it's a great film nonetheless, and it definitely scared the hell out of me, and especially the bit where they get stuck in that tunnel in the taxi, and then they have to repair it. They have to change the tire. Like that bit is real heart pumping stuff. And then obviously the ending with like Christopher Eccleston, where he's the army guy and he's got all these army dudes, and they basically they're horny and they want some women, and he's just like, yes, I will give you women. Yes, I will help get you laid. Yeah, that's all just really effed up. But anyway, I've spoken too long about that one. Moving on. 28 weeks later. I might get some hate for this. I actually really, really like this film. I actually really, really enjoy this film. And when it first came out, I actually preferred it to the first one. I actually felt like it looked more like a proper movie in comparison. Like it felt more professional, less amateur. Which, again, sorry, I don't mean to go at Danny Boyle for how he filmed the first film. I won't go on about that. But like, this film just felt more like a film. Like it was actually shot with the the best cameras at the time, which could have been Red Epic or Arri Alexa or whatever. I don't know what they used, but it just looks like a proper film, and it had a little bit of a bigger budget, but some of the stuff they were able to do with this film, I actually think was quite impressive. It feels like a big film, even though it's only got a 15 million like budget, I think. And actually, I would say it looks bigger than the the next two films as well. But we'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, like at the time, Jeremy Renner wasn't Hawkeye. He wasn't, he wasn't in the Avengers, and I think Rose Byrne. I think anyway, these actors, Imogen Poots, Idris Elba's in it as well. But anyway, all these actors, they weren't like your well-known big actors. I mean, Robert Carlyle, I know him from Train Spotting and James Bond, World Is Not Enough. But like these weren't like big famous people, like they weren't like big A-listers yet. So I guess it's like Cillian Murphy, like he wasn't a big A-lister when he made the first 28 Days film. But yeah, a lot of people like criticize this film and sort of say, oh, it's got too many famous people in it, and it's well, Jeremy Renner wasn't a big famous actor, back then. He was up and coming, same with Idris Elba. But a lot of people like criticize this film and say it's too American, and it's lacking that feel that the first one had. I don't think that's a very good assessment, really. But yeah, I like this. I like this film. It's got some more action in it. It's, as I say, it's like more of a movie. Like it's more. I guess you could say it's more accessible. I think it's got a great opening though, with like Robert Carlyle abandoning his wife, but you kind of, I don't know. You kind of sort of think it's kind of like a moral dilemma. It's a moral question. It's like, was he in the right for running away? But anyway, she turns out to be an immune, which is an interesting story development. But no, the film is good. The film is good. I like it. So shut up. 28 months later doesn't exist. I think that there was plans to make a 28 months later, which I wish they had done that. That would have been great. But anyway, on to 28 years later. 28 years later. So this came out last year, and yeah, I thought that this film was pretty great. Definitely a very strange film, not what I was expecting, and it's interesting because it's like, it's more, I would say, like this one and the 28 years later movies are more like Mad Max than 28 Days Later movies. That like it's sort of the franchise has sort of become something completely different, and it's almost kind of like a little bit, I don't know, like it's almost like it's a little bit too far different. Maybe it would have been nice to have a 28 months later before this, which could have sort of made it make sense a little bit, like you see what happened in that period between weeks and years. But anyway, yeah, this film is great. I love the whole story with the little kid and his dad, and they go into the sort of the Badlands, I guess we could call it. They're on this island. It's nice and safe. They've got this. I think it's Lindisfarne. I think it's Lindisfarne. I don't know if it's the right place. Anyway, it's an island. It's an island. And they go into the wasteland, and it's interesting because it's like the film kind of reminds me of sort of like a fantasy film. I don't know, almost like Lord of the Rings, almost, or King Arthur. The little kid called Spike, he's kind of like Arthur, before he takes the sword from the stone. And the infected are kind of, they're not just like crazy infected people. They're almost like monsters. You've got different kinds of infected now. You've got alphas, and then you've got like fat sort of sloth type infected people that just sort of crawl on the ground, and they're slow and pretty pathetic, really, but they're still pretty deadly. And obviously this film has this, again, like it has an interesting look about it. Obviously a lot better than the first one, but like it's, Danny Boyle wanted to use iPhones, and he wanted to film it in an interesting kind of way, which I don't know was necessary, really. I mean, you could have just filmed it with a normal camera. But again, a lot of people actually have issue with this film, that they say that the opening, like the beginning bit with him and his dad going into the Badlands sort of thing to hunt, like they say that that's the best part, and then after that it goes downhill. I disagree. And actually, when I was watching other people's reviews, people talking about it, I assumed that Aaron Taylor Johnson's character was going to die, because they were saying like, oh, he's there in the beginning bit, but then he's not there in the second part of it, So I kind of thought, oh well, that's a clue that he's going to get killed, but he doesn't. He doesn't die. and I hope we get to see him come back in the third 28 years later. I think that would be cool to see him again, despite the fact that he's a bit cringe, walking and mewing with his missus is a little bit cringe. But like, yeah. Anyway, all the action and stuff, it's all great. You meet this Swedish bloke with a machine gun. Jodie Comer is in it as well, and she's got cancer, and she's or is it cancer? Yes, I think it was. But anyway, yeah, there's a story there about they meet Ralph Fiennes, who's a doctor, and there's a story just about death, and basically, it's inevitable. It's gonna happen to all of us. We're all gonna die, and it's a little bit depressing, but also kind of, yeah. Danny Boyle is a very deep person. Like he's very just sort of like, yeah, man, everything happens for a reason and stuff. Yeah, like, whoa, I'm a liberal, whoa, yeah. Danny Boyle, obviously he directed the first one, didn't do Weeks Later, but he's back for this, and he might do the third 28 years later film. But anyway, I like Danny Boyle. I like all of his films, but yeah, I like some of his films. He did say some weird stuff recently about not being able to like direct Slumdog Millionaire nowadays, because he's not Asian. But anyway, hot take here. I actually still think I prefer this 28 Weeks Later. I don't know why. I feel like 28 Weeks Later is actually quite a underrated film that people shit on for no apparent reason. And I would have liked it if they'd have done a months later, but this film I thought was great, and I remember also just in the cinema when I saw it for the first time, I was so confused about the ending. I thought, what the bloody hell was that? Why is Jack O'Connell dressed up as Jimmy Savile? Why is this happening? Why are they doing somersaults and flips? All these people dressed up as Jimmy Savile. Why are they so good at kung fu and acrobatics, and how are they able to kill the infected so easily? And they just, what's going on here? What the film just went places, and I was just like, what? And then it just ended abruptly. Another note as well, the music. You heard a little bit of music from the first one, but the song, the in a Heartbeat song from the first film and the second film, it wasn't really used in this, which I found a bit disappointing. But either way, I really do like this film, and I like it even more now that I've seen The Bone Temple, which wraps up the story nicely, and or not wraps up the story, it continues the story, and we find out what happens next basically, and it kind of, it's a nice little continuation of the story. And yeah, so anyway, that's where we're at now, The Bone Temple. So I really love this film. I actually think this film was better than the previous one, and the previous one was made by Danny Boyle, and this one was directed by, I think, Nia DaCosta, who did The Marvels. And it's like, oh my word, like these two films are like night and day. Because The Marvels sucks. It is a terrible film, one of the worst Marvel films ever made. And Nia DaCosta, I mean, if you had to make that film to get a foot in the door, then I totally understand. I totally understand that. And I hope that she gets to keep on making movies, like this. She should really be doing the next one after this, but I think Danny Boyle is going to do that one. So yes. Anyway, yeah, The Bone Temple. So this one focuses more on Ralph Fiennes' character, Dr. Kelson, who we see and who we met in the previous film. And I kind of found this film, I mean, both films actually are actually quite funny. Like, they've got humour to them, more humorous than the first one and the second one. Like, those films are kind of like a bit of a drag, to be honest with you. You have to be in the right mood. Whereas these ones are actually kind of hilarious. Like the characters are quite funny. Like, obviously Jack O'Connell, obviously it's not funny that I know Jimmy Savile is not funny, but it is kind of funny that he's dressed up as Jimmy Savile. I know what he did was not funny, but it is funny to see him dressed up like that. And Dr. Kelson is actually a really funny character because he's like this really like nice guy, really soft spoken, really gentle, and he's in the apocalypse basically, trying to survive with all these monsters and creatures, and he doesn't kill anyone. Like you don't really see him kill anyone. He doesn't kill Samson, the big dude with the massive dong. You know, he instead kind of befriends him, and there's an interesting story here about an infected person kind of becoming good again, you know, becoming human again, and that whole storyline I think is fantastic. It's you know, it's great. And as well, you've got the soundtrack in this film as well. Like, you know, I love Ralph Fiennes in this film because he's a Duran Duran fan, and I like Duran Duran. They're great. And then later on in the film, you see him dancing to this Iron Maiden song, you know, pretending to be Satan. And I remember just like watching the trailer and being like, what the hell is going on? What is happening in this scene? Like, does he become an infected person? But like, he becomes like, you know, the new alpha, maybe? I don't know. Like, what's happening here? Like, is he actually Satan? But I loved all that story, and actually the scene between Jack O'Connell and him was a good scene where they, you know, they actually had a nice conversation. It was nice and pleasant, and it's the only time when you actually get to see Jack O'Connell's character being nice, being a nice person to somebody. But he's obviously just sort of, you know, using Dr. Kelson to lie to his subordinates. The scene in the barn, that was awful. Like the skinning bit, like that was horrible. Yeah, that was pretty awful. But it was great when it all goes a bit wrong for the Jimmies, like when one of the Jimmies gets killed, and then it's like oh shit, and then I think one of the characters in that was actually Andy Serkis's son. I think that's Andy Serkis's son because he looks a lot like him. But anyway, there's a good bit where he sets some of the Jimmies on fire. That was great because you really hate these characters. They're awful. They're just the worst humans ever. They're worse than the infected, and you just really badly want to see them die. And yeah, and like that whole sequence was just awful with the skinning and the oh god. So when you see them get killed, it's like yes, have some of that. And yeah, the ending was very satisfying with obviously like what you see what happens to Jimmy, and yeah, he gets his comeuppance, and that's all great. And then we get into the very final like scene with Cillian Murphy returning, and it was that really gets you excited for the next film. Hopefully that happens quite soon, and hopefully we can get it like next year. Hopefully, there is some talk about obviously like the box office, and that this film didn't really do very well at the box office, which is a shame. But they could always just make the film on less money. You know, I don't. You know, the very first 28 Days Later film was made on less than 10 million, I think, or I'm not sure. But anyway, I know that the second one was 15 million. So you could easily make a zombie apocalypse movie like 28 Days, 28 Weeks, or whatever on a small budget, you know. So they could still do that movie, but maybe take a bit of, you know, make some cuts here and there, you know, budget cuts or whatever. But no, they're yeah. I mean, if it's got Cillian Murphy in it, that's gonna put bums in seats, you know. He's you know, he's Peaky Blinders, he's Oppenheimer, you know, he's an Oscar-winning actor. So yeah, hopefully Naomi Harris is in it as well, because you get to see Jim. You know, Jim, he's got a daughter, and he's like giving her homework. Well, obviously there is no school, but he's obviously, you know, tutoring her and stuff like that, and and yes. So anyway, I'm gonna stop talking about this now, but I'm excited for another one, and I hope they do make a 28 months later though. I think that would be cool. Maybe they could do that as a TV series, perhaps, like a limited series. But no, yeah, I really like the Bone Temple, and I think I don't. Yeah, I mean, both films are good, and they obviously connect to each other. You know, 28 years and 28 years, the Bone Temple. They, you know, They tell a full story, so you watch them as one movie basically. But yeah, I think I preferred the Bone Temple. I think it was shot better, and it was just a lot more fun. Yeah, and I think as well, Spike is kind of he's in it, but he's not really like the main focus of it. Like Ralph Fiennes really kind of like steals the show really, and you know I'm glad they got him to play that character because you know I think that I don't know I think in somebody else's hands I don't think it would have worked. So I'm glad they went with him. But yeah, also like it's a really good story with like the Samson guy with his big massive dong. You know, he's regaining his humanity and he's able to speak to people. And my favorite bit was the bit where he starts talking, um, and he says like, I haven't got a ticket, and when he says moon. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna stop talking now. I think I've covered everything, and you know, I can't wait for another one. I hope they do make another one, and I hope that Aaron Taylor Johnson comes back, even though he's a bit cringe. And it would be cool to see him meet up with Spike again, and they can sort of reconcile because obviously they had a falling out in the first one. So yeah, hopefully there can be a nice little conclusion there to that story. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. I think I've been talking for 28 minutes. So I'll have to edit this and chop it down to 20 minutes, hopefully. But yes, anyway, I'm going to stop. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm definitely going now. Goodbye. Good movies. I like all of them. I like all the 28 movies. Even the one with Sandra Bullock. That's pretty good. Yeah, so goodbye. Bye.